Hey everyone, my name is Luke Thompson from ActionVFX, and in this video I want to show you a quick overview of how I use a couple specific tools inside of Relevance AI. So let's jump right in. Some quick background on myself. I am the Chief Operating Officer of a company called ActionVFX, and we create visual effects stock footage for TV shows and movies. So when you think stock footage, most of the time you think of older people or babies smiling, and you throw that in a commercial to sell your product. It's kind of similar to that, but instead of smiling babies and elderly people, we sell explosions like gunshots, fire, smoke, fog, all of that kind of stuff as stock assets. So with the complexity of our business, there are all sorts of different needs for AI agents or tools that need to be built for specific purposes. We're also a fairly small team, so it's really important for us to be as nimble as possible. And when I discovered that Relevance AI was able to actually help us internally accomplish so many huge things right out of the gate, I was immediately drawn to just jump in and build as much as I could with it. Which leads us to where we're at today with this tool. I started with a sitemap. So you can see, if you're not familiar with a sitemap, it is an XML document that basically provides a bunch of URLs for your web page. So we have hundreds and hundreds of products, and it can kind of get a little messy, but I used my sitemap to essentially just pull all of these URLs. So I scraped all of our product pages. We have blog articles, lots of other free resources, but I saved them as a table and brought them inside of Relevance. And the cool part with this is I used the URLs to actually run a scraping tool and return inside of this column with all of the page information that was scraped. So in this regard, it shows a quick example, but you can see it pulled in everything from blogs or product categories. Here's a product page. So it scraped all of this and pulled it in for me. And what's really important about this is there's so much information that's being scraped from the page, which is great because that's what I'm looking for when I'm driving all of these other tools and things being created programmatically. So you can see right here, if I build a tool, I'll simply just use enrich with tool up top, and that will allow us to select whichever tool is needed to run over this table. So I use the sitemap, I then scrape all of the page data, and once I have the scraped data in this column, then I can pretty much go to town with whatever I'm wanting to programmatically generate from this scraped data. So one example would be writing H1 titles for our SEO. So by default, what our website is built on, it doesn't automatically include a meta title, an H1, meta description, and things like that that are required for SEO. So this one's pretty straightforward, but it takes all of the page contents and then writes an H1 title. So again, it's pretty straightforward, but being able to do this in bulk, but use the scraped data to drive the writing of the H1 isn't only going to give it a better result, but it's actually going to be able to allow it to rank better organically because the H1 will actually reflect the page contents, which is a pretty big deal. So this prompt is super simple. I'm using GPT-4 Turbo for this. This is literally the prompt in its entirety. So it says, hey, it's simple, don't overcomplicate it, and give me the output. So I then run that over the top of my data inside of this table, and we are good to go. Okay, so after I run the H1 writing tool, it just displays it inside of the table. And we can go in here and see all of the other fields that have been created from this. So again, here's our scraped data. I can view the entire thing. But here is our new H1 that has been written on the scraped data. Then we also have our URL. But what's really cool about this concept is it can be applied to so many things. So scraping the page contents and then driving all of these new answers from it is really powerful. So one example is we've covered the H1 page writing meta descriptions. So it can write a quick meta description based on the page contents. And one of my personal favorites is the product FAQ generator that I've created. So digging in here, you can see that I've got one instance of GPT-4 Turbo, and it basically asks a set of questions given to it in Markdown mode, and says, here's our refund policy. And then I give it the product information, so all of the scraped page data, and it writes a complete FAQ specifically for that page. One other custom tool that I'm really excited about is the product description generator. So on our product pages, we have some pretty basic information right here. So we have our product title and then just some very brief specs and information about the product. But what we're needing to do is actually generate much more in-depth and thicker content because this page has not been ranking well because Google or other search engines see it and it appears to be thin content. So we're fixing that by updating this and writing a more detailed and in-depth description. So inside of this product description generator tool, it pulls in the product name, the product description that we already have, and then any product keywords. So sometimes we'll have some different sets and we can just include them. I put this field as optional because it's not required, but it will take them into account. The first step in my LLMs is a description writing LLM. So you'll see that this is a pretty intense prompt that is preloaded in here, and it's just been refined over time with things that it has done well and things that it hasn't done well. So write in second person form instead of using third or first person, product name, product description, and then additional keywords for your reference. So I'm going to go up and we will run this one really quickly. Inside this prompt, I've also put all of the best practices that my internal team has created for how to write great product descriptions. So we can see that right here, it's already giving us a much wider range to choose from. So it's taking the original product specs and information and expanding on them. But one really common thing that we've noticed is no matter how many times you try, it still sounds too much like ChatGPT in some instances with how the sentences are laid out. So I run this output through a Claude 2.1 writing. I also said avoid terms like elevate or meticulously crafted because you can tell that it just really overemphasizes certain things. And I just gave it the entire answer from the previous step. Again, I reminded it to return with 3 paragraphs to assist with the readability and some other prompt engineering things here. Claude 2.1, we'll run it through this. And this step is essentially just de-ChatGPTing it to sound better and more natural. So you'll also see that in its output, it says, here's my attempt at rewriting, despite me saying, don't provide any formalities or pleasantries other than your output. So there is a fact-checking LLM, and inside this fact-checking, it will reference all of the original contents, so the original specs and information that were provided, alongside the latest generation. So it will ensure that there hasn't been any hallucinations along the way, and that the product is technically sound based on its original information that we've provided to it. So we will go ahead and hit run step. I also loaded something else in here as a safety guardrail, if you will, to where the output of this LLM, if it does not meet the same tech specs or maybe it hallucinates and creates new things, it will create an output that says needs evaluation in all caps. And whenever you run this in that table view, this quickly stands out as needs evaluation, if any of them are flagged. And so you can just run those, or that's what I did, is I just ran them under my own supervision very quickly, but you're having extra eyes on the content before it is created. So this provides just another QA step in the product writing description process. And of course, we end up with our final output that can then be QA'd by humans and pushed to the website. There's many different ways that you can set up tools inside of Relevance. These are just a couple of the quick ones that I like. So whether you're scraping page content and generating new product descriptions or programmatically generating FAQs, this is only scratching the surface of what's possible inside of Relevance AI. I am really excited for you to play around with it yourself and see how this can benefit your business. Thanks.